Okay, so thank you everyone for those that are here and also for those that are watching us online. So today we have this panel about post-war sustainable reconstruction of cities in Ukraine, which is quite self-explanatory what it is about. And me and Domenico are from the European Reconstruction Summit, which is a project of sustainable reconstruction of the European city in Ukraine. Today panel is presented also together with the UNDP and with Stefano Boeri Architects. So before starting, we would like to give the floor to Andrei Litvinov, who is the counselor to the city mayor. Sadly, there should have been the city mayor himself, but you know, these days, the situation in these days, you may have seen yesterday, but also today, is quite difficult because of the continuous attacks. So sadly, the mayor couldn't be here with us, but we have Andrei, his counselor, with us. So I would give him the floor. Thank you.
Добрий день. Я би хотів, по-перше, сказати, дуже подякувати за те, що ви сьогодні зібралися. Хочу трошки розказати про наш Ірпінь. Наше місто до війни, то я тримаю в руках журнал Forbes, який вийшов в 2021 році в жовтні, якраз за декілька місяців до початку ескалації військової та наступу Російської Федерації. Ми займали сьоме місце серед усіх міст України по розвитку, по залученню інвестицій, по рівню життя для всіх мешканців. І ми дуже завжди пишалися тим, що ми працюємо, створюємо екологічний клімат. У нас найбільша кількість зелених зон знаходиться в місті.
So, hi everyone. I would thank you everyone who's here. Well, first of all, I would like to introduce to the situation in the city of Irpin. Irpin before the war, I have here this journal from Forbes, was the seventh city in Ukraine for development, for investments. So it was one of the best cities in Ukraine for us from the social. From a social point of view, and yep. Okay.
Також я хочу вибачитися за те, що сьогодні не зміг особисто прийняти участь наш міський голова.
I'm also sorry for the fact that today the mayor of the city couldn't attend this meeting.
Він знаходиться в дорозі, тому що ми підписали побратимство з містом Майамі. І він там особисто підписував з міським головою Майамі документи.
So he was on the road because he had meetings and was signing some documents for, well, the situations that is ongoing right now in the city.
Також хочу сказати, що наше місто, воно приймає участь в Раді зеленого будівництва. Ми є підписантами угоди мерів щодо економічного зростання та угоди мерів щодо клімату та енергії.
So we want also to stress out the green aspect, the sustainable aspect of our city. We signed an agreement with the council of the cities, and we are part of this council.
Ми плануємо розробляти стратегію екологічну стратегію розвитку, покращення екологічного стану не тільки в нашому місті, а й в сусідніх містах.
And we're also developing this plan for sustainable, for the sustainable development of the city, not only on our city, but also together with the cities near to ours.
Трошки розкажу про те, що в нас зараз відбувається. Мабуть, вже всі знають, наскільки наше місто постраждало. В нас пошкоджене місто на 80%.
Maybe I will tell some more about the situation of our city. So Probably most of you already know that European city has been damaged and destroyed for around 70% of the city.
Ми намагаємося розглядати розбудову, відбудову нашого міста систематично і з усіма сучасними напрямками. Долучаються як українські архітектори, так і міжнародні архітектори в рамках Irpin Reconstruction Summit.
So we have to structurally rebuild the entire city. And we want to do this together with also European and international stakeholders like architects, designers, and different experts from Europe and around the world.
Також ми хотіли би бачити відбудову нашого міста з урахуванням того сучасних викликів, таких як постійні атаки Російської Федерації, ракетні обстріли, та з такими, наприклад, проблемами величезними, як величезна, просто неймовірна кількість будівельного сміття.
So we want also to rebuild the city, respecting the highest standards possible. Можете повторити, будь ласка, другу частину?
Так, у нас величезна проблема, те, що, по-перше, треба вже враховувати, щоб були всюди бомбосховища. Я маю на увазі, що ми постійно знаходимося під обстрілами. Це вже треба теж враховувати в відбудові, враховуючи сьогоднішні наші потреби, ситуацію з війною. І друге, це величезна в нас проблема з будівельним сміттям, що стосується екології, яку ми поки не знаємо, як вирішувати.
So in this situation right now, we have some major problems. One of these are the continuous attacks from Russia and therefore the need for shelters. The second one is, друга проблема, вибачте, я просто
проблема, дивіться, у нас, коли ми ж потроху відбудовуємо, потрошечки відновлюємося, і в нас з будинків, з усього, у нас велика кількість будівельного сміття.
Так, я просто послухав. And the second major problem is using all the debris that comes from the war. So all the debris that left around, because 70% it's a huge amount of destruction. So all these leftovers from the wars should be used somehow.
Ми хочемо розвивати, відбудовувати наше місто в сучасних тенденціях, тому нам дуже потрібно розробити, і вже він розробляється, це майстер-план відбудови міста.
And so we need to rebuild the city according to the highest standards possible, to the highest standards that are already existing around the world.
Також я хотів би відмітити Стефана Боері з вертикальними лісами, який нещодавно доєднався своїми чудовими пропозиціями до нас.
And I would also thank Stefano Boeri, the creator of the vertical forest in Milan, for his participation.
Я хочу подякувати взагалі всім, хто доєднався, і дуже чудово, що в нашої Irpin Reconstruction Summit, нашої офіційної робочої групи, налагоджується такий капітальний процес по відбудові міста.
And I would also want to thank all those that are here present, that are following this panel, and want to stress once again the need for a structure and complete reconstruction and planning of the city.
Дякую всім за увагу і ще раз передаю вітання від нашого міського голови і вибачення, що він не доєднався. Бажаю нам всім плідної роботи.
Thanks again, and again apologies for the lack of presence of the mayor of the city, and thank you all. Okay, so now we have so we want to thank again Andrei Litvino for being here with us. Now there is a short video just to make you visualize the current situation in Irpin city. So just a second. Okay. Okay, so this is the current situation of the city. And right now, in my intervention, I will not be speaking just about the European city, which will be the main focus of my colleague, but I want to talk in general about Ukraine. So what you have now seen is not just the situation in one city, which is tragic, but it's the situation of many and many cities in Ukraine. So reconstruction, when the war ends, because the war will end with a free and unconquered Ukraine, when this happens, reconstruction will be needed. It will be mandatory because people need a place where to live. So if we can just switch to the next slides. Yeah, okay, next one, thank you. Yeah, so I want to stress in particular the attention on one point, which is, of course, we are not able to speak in 1 hour about, you know, the entire reconstruction in Ukraine from all the perspectives. It would be simply impossible. So I want to talk about the importance of local community, of civil society, the private sector, and in general of an approach that comes from the people, from the people that live in these destroyed cities, and so a bottom-up approach towards the reconstructions, the reconstruction. If we can go to the next one. So what is happening right now during these difficult times, during the war in Ukraine? So actually, we have seen different things happen. In war areas, people are coming together, helping each other simply to survive. So we have seen communities where people some of them stop doing their regular jobs to simply help the others, the elders, the children, those who are escaping, those who are remain. But we also, so the people in these realities really came together as one people to survive this tragic situation. We see this every day. We have seen many pictures, for example, of people crossing the European River over the destroyed bridge. So there are local communities helping, you know, delivering the goods to the people and all of this. But we have seen also communities that are not together anymore in the same physical place, that are still staying together. So those people who fled are still in constant contact with their realities where they come from. So with people with their neighbors, with their relatives. For example, people that live abroad in Europe. Many of those are sending humanitarian aid. Some of these are, for example, people that go back and forth from Ukraine back to, for example, Europe with humanitarian aid, with any kind of help. And also the people that leave from actually a lot of time in Europe, so even or in any other place, even from before the full scale war began. Also, these people feel much more attached to their communities, to the places where they come from, than probably even more than before the war. So we have seen, for example, drivers that go again back and forth, risking eventually their lives, so they could stay, you know, safe in the places where they live, and still they risk their life to go and bring the help that is needed. We have seen families in constant contact. We have seen those communities that also in the refugee camps, people are coming together, even though they are not anymore in the same place. So this is the strength, the resilience of people. It's amazing, and it's widespread known. And this is important because from a country perspective, if there weren't these strong local communities and this resistance, most probably the government itself alone couldn't do much. So you as a government, even if you're staying strong, you need the real support and the strength of the people that live in your country. So and we have been seeing this every day, but so this is the situation right now. We have to consider it when cities will be will go through the process of rebuilding. We will need to consider what's going on now. So the fact that people are participating to this resistance is something that can't be forgotten once the war will be over. So decision makers, you know, investors and anyone else will need to consider this aspect when also approaching reconstruction. The next slide. So, but what was the situation before the war began? So now we see communities to stick together, but what was before? So actually from a national perspective, like from a policymaker perspective, Ukraine since the 2010s years is going through this process of decentralization. So actually it had and it has this this already long-standing policy of decentralizing. So the old Soviet, you know, this Soviet concept of a centralized state that was had its full control in Moscow, and then the ramifications towards the local aspect. Well, it's already quite far away from the perspective that Ukraine has. So the government in the last years went through these policies of decentralization. And for example, we have seen that the power actually went more to the local level. So the structure of administrative units changed. We don't have just, you know, regions and provinces and like single cities. We have this concept of, in English, it's amalgamated territorial communities, which in Ukrainian is okay, sorry, I can't switch right now. So yeah, these communities are the unity of more single cities together. And why it is important. So we went from having like 490 different, you know, units to having just 136. But the point is that these units, these communities now have more power. So for example, just in some, in one KPI, we have that the distribution of the budget. So the percentage of the budget that went directly to the local, like that could be invested from local administrators, went from 42% in 2014, before all this decentralization took place, to 50% in 2018. So before the war, but when the process was still going on. So what is the difference? That instead of having investments to be decided from, you know, Kyiv and the national perspective, we have more power of investment at a local level. So more at a city level. And why this is good? Because most probably the local, you know, the city mayor or the community that is there knows better the needs of the people that live there than someone who is more far away. Of course, we need a strong national law, like a strong national level, but this doesn't imply that everything has to come from the top. So people need to actually be able to decide where to put their money. So yeah, this is a switch of paradigm from the Soviet state to something different, something new. There are differences also in how elections are made, on how this the decision-making process is made at a local level. So if any of you has more questions, we can dive more into this later. So this is from an institutional perspective. Then we have like the ONG and civil society. What was the framework before war began? We had actually in Ukraine, we have more than 40,000 different 40,000 different ONGs. So it's not a small number. It means that the will to participate in, you know, in the civil, in society, in actual what's going on around ourselves was strong. So there was civil society participation, there was interest in what's going on in the country. And we see this right now. So right now during the war, we see this is actually true. And then there is the private sector. So the private sector is strange because we went through this process of decentralization of people uniting after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but from the aspect of private sector, it has been more difficult. So the fact that it was a more oligarch-centered scheme in Ukraine, where there were this big corporation in in the hands of a few, made it more difficult for companies to emerge. And we have seen this problem in the past years. In my opinion, and not only in my opinion, when the war ends, we strongly need to shift also in paradigm from this perspective. So like the economic approach should change if we want also to overcome some of the economic problems that Ukraine had even before this full-scale invasion began. So the private sector, maybe, for example, I like to think that it may go in the direction where, well, of some of the Italian perspective. So in Italy, we have this really huge quantity of small businesses, which is really interesting because among the like most developed countries, it's one of the countries where there is the major percentage of for example, GDP and economy coming from small businesses. So in an economy which was based, was under Soviet rule and then came into the hands of huge oligarchs, this could be an approach, and this is my personal, of course, opinion, so I'm not talking on behalf of the government or anyone else. It could be an approach to overcome some huge problems that we have seen the previous years. So then in regards of, at the next slide, of the of the civil society involvement. So in particular I think there was another one. Yeah, the next one. Yeah, okay, this, no, the previous one. Yeah, thank you, this. So what's the situation at the international level? At the international level, in particular, talking about the environmental aspect, the climate crisis, and the reason why all of us are here today, we have seen a strong participation by the civil society and by people, actually. So for example, well, of course, in the last year, the concept of think global but act local has emerged. So we have to address problems at an international level. We need to stick all together, but we never have to forget about the importance of the differences among the different, realities. Because, a city in Italy will never be the same as a Ukrainian city or as a Mexican city, or a big metropolitan area as Japan can't be compared, for example, to the many different villages and small cities that are present in Ukraine. So we have to act to think and act at a global level, but we really need to remember that single realities are different, and this is the reason why the one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. So if we see that a project, for example, involving mangroves, forests in Caribbean islands works, it doesn't mean that in Italy, in Venice, we have to plant mangroves, or in Odessa. It doesn't make sense. So we really need, and this applies also for single countries. So I'm doing the example at an international level, but we need to remember that also in Ukraine, for example, different cities have different realities. So a city in the Kiev region near to the capital will be much different for example, from a village in the Carpathian Mountains. So these differences need to be accounted. And people actually living in those places, in particular after what is going on right now, need to decide for themselves for how the the place around them will look like after this war. We can have, for example, the decision over even the smallest infrastructure or the energy level or anything else, like education, and everything we have to be decided only at a national level, because this simply could lead to not actually like going in the direction of the needs of the people. So we have seen that there is interest at international level. We are all here today. Well, in Glasgow, just to give you some numbers about the international participation, in Glasgow, we had 120 head of states, but we had 40,000 different participants. Of these 40,000 participants, 14,000 were observers. So were people coming not necessarily from governments and so on, but from ONGs, from institutions, universities, so from a lower level than national governments. And even among parties, which had delegations for up to 22,000 people, many of those are parties overflows, as me today. So they are not necessarily representing ministries. They may be from the civil society, ONGs. So we actually see that there is participation, that there is the willing to take part in the rebuilding process, and we need to consider this if we don't want to go and fall back into the errors of before the war. So thank you. I will pass the microphone to my colleague Domenico, who will dive more into the European level. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Vladi, for the amazing introduction to the project. Actually, I will briefly introduce myself. I'm Domenico Vito. I'm not Ukrainian. I will just start in saying this, but I'm Italian, and I'm European. That's why I decided to join this initiative that we call European Reconstruction Summit. Inside the European Reconstruction Summit, I help on project management skills and sustainability assessment, because basically these are my basic skill as a background. But I want to tell you about this project in a way that is technical, of course, because it's my role, but also experiential. So I want to tell you the experience of European Reconstruction Summit. So next slide, please. Okay, I try to start from the concept of resistance. My colleague Vladi has already stated about the resistance that the soldiers and the population in Ukraine are doing right now. And resistance is also a technical term, and it means the capability and the asset of a material to resist to a shock and to a stress, and to maintain at least the vital capacity. So the ones that doesn't let the material itself to be completely destroyed. And I bring up, as Italian, that's part of my history, another type of history, another type of resistance that has been the partisan resistance. That, sorry for this brief comparison, but I really felt this, it seemed very, very similar to what's happening now in Ukraine. That's why more and more, even I'm collaborating with this project, I feel that it's very important for us Italians, for us Europeans, to help for the reconstruction of Ukraine. And partisan resistance started when like the Nazist troops and the fascist government of Italy were like not allowing the country to grow, to build back, and to exit from the war. And then the population themselves decided to bring up the weapons, and to resist, to have like a voluntary army in order to free Italy from the fascism and the Nazism. So next slide, please. But now we are in 2022, and the event that I was telling you was like in the past, during the Second World War. Now we know this concept that you already have heard here several times, that is resilience. Resilience is the definition of the capability of a system to restore, but not only to restore, to respond, and eventually turn back better, learn from the shock. And that's actually where I want to focus my intervention, because resilience started from a psychological term. The first definition of resilience pertained to the medical field and implies that capability of the psychology of a person to restore from, I don't know, events that were hurting and so on. Now we turn the term to the ecological system, but also this can be done also for a city, can be done for a community. And here, the next slide. And let's turn also resilience to the community level. Vladi very well introduced this concept of act also at the local level. And it's very important that each community can foster and can enhance its resilience, the community resilience. The community resilience is the one that allows a community, a city, to gather together to recreate the connection in the tissue of the city itself, to act together in order to overcome the shock. And that's what, with the next slide, I will define the European Reconstruction Summit. That is an example of sustainable, because we want to reach the sustainable development goals, grassroots resilience, because it started from the scratch. And now at the end of the presentation, I will tell also how it started. And I use also these quotes that you can find at the back. This is the quote that the ones that are in Yango here very know well. It's the quote that every young is singing during the constituencies and so on. We are unstoppable, and other word is possible, because war is not the last word. And we have to be unstoppable to build the world that we want. So please, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So European Reconstruction Summit is an initiative that was born to rebuild in a smart and sustainable way the city of Irpin. The city of Irpin has been destroyed by the 76% by the Russian invasion, and has been appointed also as heroic city by the Ukrainian national government, because actually it resists to the first invasion of Russian troops. And it blocks the troops before letting them go to Kiev. And after the expulsion of the Russian army, the city of Irpin has started to gather volunteers, experts, engineers, architects, and also us, in order to create this movement, this initiative, to plan the city in another way, to plan the reconstruction of the city. Please, next slide. So the objectives, as I said, is to rebuild in a smart and sustainable way. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, our mission is, as I said, to rebuild the destroyed city of Irpin that has been mapped to be destroyed by the 76%. And the idea is to use new standards for building. You know that building sector, energy sector, the city level is one of the most pollutant. The IPCC is telling us. Recently, the IPCC has released the summary for policymakers that state that cities are both the crucial emitters, but also the potential place where to apply a climate resilient development. And that's our mission, to apply international standard like LEED, like EU standard, in order to build back better the city. Next slide, please. So how do you want to do that? Actually, we want to elaborate a concept for the post-war development of the city. We want to rely also on existing strategy on the city in order to coordinate with the past. And we want to gather opinion also at the city level to the citizens, and we want to make this reconstruction more participatory. And actually, we are also having a campaign on fundraising, because you can imagine that rebuilding the entire city is very costly. Just to figure out, now we started with a grant for winterize the main buildings. Winterize means allow that the people can enter into the building at least for winter. That has cost $5 billion. Sorry, 5 billion euros. And actually, we are trying to do that in full participation with the municipality of Irpin. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we have short-term and long-term goals. The short-term is to allow the people at least to survive and live for the brief term, for winter, for since the end is not, the war is not stopped. But also we have a long-term strategy. We are now creating a panel of international experts that can help us to redesign the city. We are collaborating with Stefano Boeri, that was mentioned here and will be speaker today. We lace a memorandum of understanding with the Gessler, with the GBC, the Green Building Council, in order properly to gather expertise from all over the world to make Irpin build back better. Next slide, please. So this is the structure of our project. We define some pillar areas in which we want to act. After the kickoff, we want to go into the immediate winter reconstruction, the winterization. Actually, we have already a project on that together with the NGO Terre des Hommes. We are now implementing the reconstruction of 4 residential buildings that will serve to 400 families in order to return back at least for winter. But also we want to plan, as I say, the new post-war reconstruction, and we want to execute. We have also a plan for rebuilding each single building on our strategy. We want to monitor and evaluate, because this needs to be a constant improvement process. And of course, one of the pillars that we are organizing in our project is fundraising and communication. The costs of this operation are very, 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 very relevant. And we are trying to attract also business, also investment, because we understand that this can be also potential for the European reconstruction. Vladi has said before, the small businesses, the new economy can be like a further driver for the reconstruction of the Ukrainian economy. Next slide, please. Here you can find the full package of our action. For each of the pillars that I introduced before, we already set up a structure of work packages and deliverable. You can find the work structure here. And we want to be detailed, we want to be serious. We are a group of volunteers, but we are approaching that really with a high professional and a high expertise also in the managers of the project. Next slide, please. Here you can find also the timelines. We are planning for now that the project will be of 3 years, from 2022 to 2025, at least, of course, considering the risk connected to the continuation of war. But also on that, we try to build up a timeline that could be resilient on that. You can find the timeline scanning this QR code where the full Gantt is available. Next slide, please. This is the governance of the project. Actually, the project is a multi-stakeholder and multi-actor project. Together with the main management board that is led by the municipality of Irpin and the decision maker of Irpin, there is the PMO that is our group of volunteers that is coordinating this project. But also we have a facilitation unit for gather all experts and plan standing to each expertise the different phases of the reconstruction. For the facilitation, we also asked the help of the famous building company that's called Gessler, because we want really the best for the reconstruction of the Irpin city. And of course, we are planning also to have temporary working group that can face particular challenges. And we also, the very innovation, we have also a sustainable assessment unit that will be deputed to understand in the various phases the sustainability of the project and the application of the higher sustainability standards. Please, next slide. So this is our decision-making board. Actually, the mayor of Irpin and the Irpin City Council are at the head of the decision, and the PMO office that is made by the project manager, Irina Yarmolenko, that is like the initiator and leader of this project. We are us, the group of volunteer, but I will not define volunteer because each one of them is giving a great expertise to the process and is making this process even day by day bigger. So next slide, please. This is the planned phase for reconstruction. We want to have a first phase for consult the local stakeholder. That's very important. Vladi has said, the involvement of local community, the citizens, now is making the difference, and we want to engage that. So the first phase will be a dialogue between professional and citizen stakeholder to then go into like the definition of the plan and then the final execution. Next slide, please. And as I said before, we want to also to really control and take care of the process since each detail also at the building level. Actually, this workflow is resuming the normal process that we want to like envision for the reconstruction of a single building. So once we have the general urban plan, then the design team will decide together with the decision maker, which is the implementation plan. And this implementation plan will be approved by the management board and then given to the delivery teams that are the group of professionals of business, of contractors that will be like assigned to rebuild that building. But of course, the execution part will be always monitored by the monitor and control unit that will assess the quality and the KPIs for the process, but also by the environmental assessment unit that will take care of the part of environmental sustainability and high LEED standard and sustainable standard. Actually, I didn't mention, but was written in the slide, we want to accomplish also with this project, for our part, of course, for the sake of a city, to the Paris Agreement goals. That is our reference for implement this project. Next slide, please. As you can see from myself, that I'm not Ukrainian, this project wants to foster international collaboration for the reconstruction, and this is very important for the post-war vision of Ukraine, and also for all Europe, I can say. And we starting from 300 volunteers, that was the initial group of professionals that designed the city, and 10 private companies that supported. Now we involved several famous architects like Christian Alfredo Wittingrel, Gerhard Hauser, Stefano Boeri that will intervene after, Hiroki Matsura, Marco Mari that is like the president of Green Building Council Italy, but also with interlace partnership with municipalities and regions, because also the local governments collaboration is essential to foster this project. Next slide. So I'm conclude my intervention now to report one of the experiences that by which this project has initiated. This is the photo of Irina Yarmolenko that I think that she is listening has online. She was a young from this process. We met here, the previous COP. Then the wars like broke up, and as you can do with a friend, we started to ask ourselves, what's happening? What's your situation? And she was escaping. She was escaping by the missiles that morning started to bomb Ukraine. And by our Italian tradition, this situation was very recalling because we have a song that say, one morning I woke up and I heard the invader come. That exactly was the situation in which my friend Irina was facing that time. This is the main sentence of our song Bella Ciao, that is the symbol of the resistance of the partisans against the Russian invasion. But after resistance, we want to go further. We decide to start our personal informative war. That's one of the sentences that Irina Yarmolenko stated in Italy during her speech at the National Liberty Day, when we celebrate our liberation from the fascism. And then we decide together to build back better. One of the slogans of this conference is together for implementation. Together, collaboration is a key for realize a real climate action. But to make together is important also to have a strong institution and strong international institution. And on that, I will close my intervention, and I will open the floor to Francesco Postiglione. It's okay? Okay.
Okay, we know that Stefano Boeri has just a couple of minutes, so we will give him the floor and then come back to Postiglione and Joel for their interventions. Thank you. So, Stefano, are you with us?
Yes, yes, do you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. And first of all, let me say that I'm very honored and I'd say happy to be part of this team. I was in Sharm, and I visited the Ukraine pavilion, and I was sharing the same emotions about what we have to do and what we have seen it has happened in Irpin. And I believe that all what we could do in terms of contributing to not simply to reconstruct, but also to, let's say, create a new vision for the future of Irpin. It's absolutely at the center of our attention. And so, no, my presence here is simply to tell you that I confirm that we are absolutely, let's say, available and ready to start to help to create this vision, at the same time in a very pragmatic way to contribute to any possible intervention or idea or suggestion we could do, because we know that the winter will be very hard, and for sure we have to, let's say, be very pragmatic in helping to do that. So thanks so much again, and be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you again. So just to remember it again, so Stefano Boeri, together with many other people, are collaborating in order to, as said Domenico, prepare, first of all, the city master plan, a new, innovative and sustainable, ambitious master plan. And then on the basis of this master plan, the actual reconstruction can take place with high level ambition and to get, with the participation of the community, as we stressed earlier, it is important. Now the word to Postiglione, who is here with us.
Hello everyone, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi to everyone there in the audience, and hi to everyone connected online. Thank you for your kind invitation. I will introduce myself. First of all, I'm Francesco Postiglione from Italy. I am a member of Amnesty International and scholar in political philosophy since the 90s, and actually I'm a blogger and articulist on subjects about human rights, democracy and peace. I will go in my, can I go to shared screen if it's possible?
Yeah, I think it's possible. You should be able to do so.
Actually, I'm not able to share my screen. I would like to show to the audience my blog.
Okay, you
but
can go.
okay,
can go.
I will try. Okay. Here is my blog in Italian, unfortunately, because I'm Italian, and in some articles in the last months, I talked about questions about and answers about the war in Ukraine, and I will. I was invited to answer not to a simple question, but it's an urgent, really urgent question that comes before the theme of reconstruction that you discussed until now. And the question and the principal theme is peace. Peace, how to get peace, not only about the actual war in Ukraine, but how to get peace in general in the international conflicts. I'll go again in shared screen. Well, the theme is what instruments we can use to have shared decisions on common problems like climate crisis or international crisis, because the situation actually is that we have two greatest urgencies in Europe and in the world. One is the war in Ukraine, and the other is the climate urgency. And I will share with you two ideas that can solve both urgencies by a reform of the UN system of decision, of taking global decision. One of these ideas is not my idea, but it's a long-aged idea that we can find in some philosophers. Since Kant, Immanuel Kant, a philosopher of the 17th century, but even in the political philosophy of the 20th century, just like, for example, Hans Kelsen, we can say that the dialogue between countries has greatly improved until the First World War and the Second World War, but essentially is still at a level of power relations between states, or as in the actual situation, unfortunately, or of war of a state or more states one another. We can have alliances, but we don't have actually a global democratic federation. We have the UN, but UN is not a democratic political federation of states. But a lot of philosophers, just like Kant or Kelsen, or other more recent like Bobbio or Dahrendorf, they talked about an objective solution of the problem of the fundamental of the international law and of the problem of war. And for example, they talk about a possible reproduction of a democratic model on an international scale. Imagine a single assembly of states represented by democratically elected ambassadors, able to decide by majority, without vetoes or without power constraints. We can have this kind of order in UN Assembly, actually, but only by a strong reform that it's not in the agenda of the political meetings of the governments. And unfortunately, it's not in the political agenda, neither of the ONG. And this is why I'm talking now about this idea, because I think that if we can have an international order democratically assessed, we can solve some problems like decisions about climate change and about war or military invasion. In an order like this, we can provide the task of sanctioning, the punishment for violators of law, just like, for example, for military invaders. And we can solve definitely the problem of war, because war will not be a system of regulating contracts between states. There will be no fair war in such order, because war is totally cancelled by an international system in which we should have the power, the legal power to intervene in a state or in a situation, in a territorial situation in which there is one invader to another state. We in such kind of order, we cannot have fair war, because the victim state has always the alternative legal means to retaliate against the injustice suffered. Obviously, violence is not completely removed, because just like, for example, police has to use violence if there's someone who is violating the law. And we can imagine that an international army has to use violence or military solutions to end an invasion or to end a human rights crisis starting from a state. But this will be a violence regulated by law. There will be no war, because the international order, just like a state order, can use, and it's the only power to use violence. We can imagine that actually the UN is something like that, but it is not so, not from its birth after the Second World War, because, for example, we have a kind of democratic order in the UN Assembly when they take resolutions or decisions, but we don't have a democratic order in the Security Council. Security Council in its current actual form does not work. And we can see this, for example, in the situation of war in Ukraine, because obviously one of the members has used the veto power not to make some decisions about the situation, and in this case the country was Russia. The Security Council is something that comes from the Second World War. 5 permanent members: USA, China, Russia, England, and France. And I will just for a moment show what the first countries producers of weapons in the world. Let's see. USA, Russia, and France, and China. 4 of the 10 greatest producers of army, of war, are members of the Security Council at the moment. So it's clear that a situation like this and an order like the one we have cannot solve the problem of war. We should abolish the power of veto, and we should have a Security Council composed not only by 5 or 6 or 15 members, but by all the states that are representative of the territorial growth of people in the different continents. For example, we should have Africa, we should have Brazil, we should have India, and so on. The other idea is that to go in to focus for that goal, to go in that situation, we can only ask on the ONG, because there are the only movements that are talking about reform the international order at the moment. You can see that all actual peaceful protest movements, for example, in Egypt or France or Georgia, Haiti, Hong Kong, and so on, they are involved in this vision because they want the globalization of rights all over the world. And the people who are members of these movements are representing the idea that a social pact made by people can be applied to a global context. For example, the great climate protests that are leading all over the world. There are two issues in this protest that it's important for this discussion. First of all, they are led by young people, and they are led towards social media and technological means. So they have a global diffusion. These two features could sign a success, but all these movements are leaderless, and they don't have a clear design program of global reform. They protest, but they don't say too much about how to solve the problem. For example, the problem of climate. This idea that I just presented can be an idea of reforming the statute of UN, and so it could be a program for all the NGO protests or movements that wants to really change the actual situation, for all the NGOs and movements that wants to stop war all over the world, not only in Ukraine, and for all the movements that wants to solve the problem of climate change. I think we have to connect the global movements that are starting all over the world, the protests against war, for example, or against climate change, with an idea of reforming the UN, introducing in the UN a real democratic order, which is not so actually at the moment, because we have a kind of institution that has to be quashed or maybe reformed, just like the Security Council. And my concern is that no political party, no government, no NGO movement is never thinking about reforming the UN, just like UN is something that is stable and not to be modified. We should modify the institution of UN, and starting with the Security Council, and starting with the international permanent trial, because that institution has to be a more global power to.
Thank you, Francesco.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for intervention. Sorry, just because of the time. We, in regards of peace, also Joel had an intervention. I will ask Joel, please, to be brief, just for a matter of time, because there are also panels later. Please have the floor and tell us more about how to have, peace, and then actually proceed to reconstruction.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. And so I'm Joel Iboa. I'm a civil society activist from Africa, and I am the Secretary General of Africa Network of Young Leaders for Peace and Sustainable Development. So it is a network that works across the continent for peace building and sustainable development goals. And what Africa is in the grips of multiple conflicts, and especially in various sub-regions like West Africa, seeing against the violent extremism. So violent extremism that is that may have two lengths of view. We can have violent extremism from within, and we can also have violent extremism from the terrorist groups. So as civil society activist and also as an expert, so we have led various projects that are aimed as reducing also countering violent extremism. And I can, for instance, name the project United for Peace and the project Peace. So I should say that I am in Cameroon, so that is the center of West Africa and also Central Africa. And so the conflicts not only is at the grip of various conflicts that are coming from West and South Africa, but also conflict within with the separatists. So this project that we have implemented from 2014 to up to 2022. So we had several axes because we wanted really to involve more young people and also women, because when we have observed what was ongoing in Africa, we are in several countries, we have seen that young people were not really involved, and generally the politics. When I say politics, the government wanted to address those conflicts alone with their own weapons that was not that were not really involving people. So the aim of those projects was really to instill a whole of society movement involving young people and women, also to be cornerstone in building a sustainable peace. So that is it. So I can say that the main axis of those projects were media and social media against violent extremism. So we worked also with various media to better inform them about the conflict, so that they play the role that they have, because you know that media is a power. So when the journalists are very well trained, they can play a vital role, yes, for sustainable peace, informing, giving the right, the good information, and also mobilizing stakeholders, yes, through various also advocacies. So we use social media and also media to pass on our messages. And we also we had also a weapon non-proliferation, but I should say that this is after. But we have also, as I say, world of society security. So we involve also religious and traditional leaders, because you know that in Africa we have several. Africa is mainly governed with tradition. So religious and traditional leader, they have a vital role. So involving them also in the process was also key for us to make sure that the young people at community level and also in churches and mosques will be so we have built various platforms with those communities leaders, and also our aim also is to make sure that young people will be in various decision-making platforms, because as I said at the beginning, what we noticed is that the young people and women were left behind. So we work also with National Youth Council, because in various African countries we have National Youth Council, so that our advocacy was that they should be involved in decision-making platform, so that we make sure that the process of building peace and also rebuilding what was destroyed be done with them. So also one axis that was also that I should also underline is yes, the resilience through community support, sensitization, very well informing, educating the communities, but also supporting the women and also young people, because you know in Africa, we in Cameroon, for instance, and the young people constitute 60 to 60%, yes, of the population. So it was really vital for us that they be more informed more equipped through capacity building so that they be able to address and also to take advocacies and also to make that what happened in a particular place should not happen again. So one also of axis that was key in our action or the project was the weapon non-proliferation, because you know that with violent extremism, we have various weapons that are disseminated in nature. So this has also an impact on environment if this is not well addressed. So we also, one of the axes of our action were also to address the weapon proliferation. And yes, by involving young people and also community leaders to make sure that we reduce, yes, the proliferation and weapon. So this also included that a control by the government of the weapon, and also disarming and also demobilization and also a reintegration, because in our context we are talking of people that took arms, weapons to fight against the power of the state, because either they are not very well satisfied by what is ongoing about the policies.
Joel, do you hear me? Yeah,
yes.
I think that what you said, it's important. We can see also in Ukraine many of these topics. We can see, for example, the remnants of war, how they impact on like on the reality from a concretely what's around of us. For example, in Ukraine we have many landmines that have been left by Russians. So I think that what you have been saying really has its connection, sadly, also to what's happening in Ukraine and, for example, in European cities. So we can see that we have global problems. We have same problems, sadly, all around the world. They have their local differentialities, but we can learn from each other to move forward and to find solutions. Joel also mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, the youth that, for example, in Africa, they constitute like a huge amount of the population. And actually in Ukraine, we have, for example, in Ukraine, we have 27% of the population being between 11 years old and 35. So also there we have quite a young population. So we can see that we can learn from each other. And in regards of, so I thank you again, both Joel and Francesco. And now for a specific example, because today is the day of solutions here at COP. So for a concrete example of solution that may be implemented in these scenarios, I give the floor to the UNDP. They will tell us more about the Kiev region and some concrete examples that, well, they have implemented. Do you hear us?
Yes.
Perfect. Then the floor is yours.
Okay, just 1 second. Do you see my presentation?
Yep, we see.
Great. Okay, so my name is Alina Sokolenko. Here I would like to present the projects of UNDP. I joined UNDP from the side of circular economy, and today I will speak about the practical cases that we currently have within UNDP. And my topic today will be about circular economy as a key principle in a post-war recovery and reconstruction. Today we spoke about sustainability, about green recovery, and so on. But I would like to lead you through a good journey of the projects that we have currently. So you may know that UNDP launched its resilience building and recovery program in Ukraine. Actually, it started in April 22 to immediately respond to the development and humanitarian challenges. Actually, all the program was focused on mitigating risks and support with governance and service delivery. There are key projects within this program, and now we are concentrating on two of them, because actually they're all connected with the city recovery. So it's UFPI project and emergency grant aid project. Both of them, they're quite similar, only different the regions. But now we are speaking about the Kiev Oblast and some cities within the Kiev Oblast. So all this project, they're focusing on the support to debris removal, especially that contains the hazardous materials and explosive ordnance. Also, we are focusing on identification, mapping, and neutralization of urgent environmental threats. Same time, we are speaking about the restoration of critical utility services. And what is the most important, that we are trying to combine our services together with improvement of environmental and social part of the project. Therefore, we are looking at the circularity and sustainability approach within all this project. Therefore, we are looking at debris recycle that leads to reduced quantities of requiring disposal, saving in energy and emissions from reduced transport of waste debris for disposal. And of course, we are speaking about reducing the need to quarry natural raw materials for the reconstruction works, since recycled debris can be substituted these raw materials. So we can find some benefits within these projects. And therefore, we are not only speaking about what the critical and the hard situation we currently have, especially those people that are living in these municipalities, that are living in the cities. We are trying to benefit it from other aspects of their life. And therefore, when we are doing our project, first of all, we are in a tight communication with our stakeholders, local people, local municipalities, different NGOs, and we are trying to find the best solutions. And still, at the beginning of the project, during the project, and at the end of the project. So if we will come back to the project in numbers, so currently we used to work in 4 locations in Kiev Oblast: Irpin, Bucha, Hostomel, Makariv. And based on the outcomes and communication with local people, with municipalities, the UNDP team and the management decided to move further with one more additional point of Ivankiv. And actually, I was on the side, on all of the side, and what I saw, it was horrible picture. Actually, and this picture was made by myself. It was a kindergarten, actually. Not kindergarten, you know, it's very difficult to say that kindergarten, because there is nothing, no more kindergarten. There are a lot of toys together with debris. Yeah, and it's horrible pictures. And our focus is just to bring the normal life as soon as possible to the cities and to help them to develop in the sustainable way, to show the possibility of it. And currently we manage more than 310 quantity of buildings for demolition. Mostly it's 1 and 2 floor buildings, and sometimes there is some municipalities buildings. For example, kindergartens, we have like 2 in Gostomel. And as I mentioned, we used to cooperate with contractors. Why it's important? Because contractors are supposed to be in line with our values and our principles, and therefore we are much focusing on cooperation with them, and therefore we are supplying them with our training. I will speak about it later on, and our assistance as well. Here I would like to present our general roadmap of debris recycling that we used for this project, and that will be spread further for, I believe there will be not like only this project, but there will be more and more that will be focused on recovery of Ukrainian cities in sustainability of green way. So we are actually starting at the point where we are carrying the damage assessment and debris estimates. After that, we are going forward to conduct demolition and debris planning. After that, after the planning, we are providing works packages for contractors. as I mentioned, we used to work with contractors on the regular basis that include also the training needs and some assistance works. After that, we are establishing the debris recycling technical working group. So the working group can combine the UNDP experts, our consultancy, and contractors, of course, with other key stakeholders, just in line to realize this project as best as possible. After that, we going further, it's agreeing on technical specification for recycled debris material. You know, it's not enough just to recycle it. You need to do it in line with national and international legislation. Therefore, even those materials should be managed appropriate. Still, we need to focus on two main issues, to reuse as much as possible, and after that only recycle, because again, the circular economy approach comes from the first to reuse and then to recycle. And therefore, we work together with municipalities, with contractors to do as much as possible reuses, and after that recycling. And then we are moving to proceed debris into a recycled material. There are like two types of debris materials recycled that will be used for the construction and for the road construction. And for both, they are both applicable for those cities. So we are trying to cycle all the process of debris recycle in our projects. And as I mentioned, we used to cooperate with different stakeholders, and one of them is state and emergency service. During this project, we used to provide them with all necessary equipment just to cooperate as in a best way to bring the benefit to the municipalities, to the local cities and communities. And also, we are used to work with our key contractors, bringing them the best trainings, first of all, that are focused on the mining, and of course, asbestos awareness, actually, hazardous waste management. Therefore, our key and important target, help local communities, help the municipalities to rebuild their cities in the best possible way, but do it in line with international principles. And therefore, we are bringing our experience, we are bringing our experts on the site and to do their job as in the best way. So, thank you.
Sorry, my microphone was off. So yeah, thank you again. This shows actually that even in this, these tragic scenarios, actually we have not to lose the focus over, on the environmental integrity and sustainability. Solutions exist. There are many others. I mean, these are concrete examples from the Kyiv region, but many others exist, and they have to be implemented. We can right now, think of rebuilding, going to the status quo that was before the war. So coming back to a business as usual that is inadequate at the moment, and then doing a transition. We don't need, a reconstruction first and then transition then. We need a sustainable reconstruction immediately. So this is what Ukraine needs. I really thank Alina for being here. I want to thank also all our speakers. So Joel, Francesco, the advisor to the city mayor, and of course Domenico. I want also to thank all our partners of European Reconstruction Summit. There's many of them. For example, also in regards of the connection between cities, between local levels, what this panel is about. We have also the Uzhoda Meri at the Ukrainian level, which is a network of different mayors at the local level. So I want to thank really everyone for being here, and if anyone has questions, feel free to come to us as soon as the panel ends, because we are running out of time. Thank you again.